Well, good morning. We will go ahead and get started, and I'll open the room or admit folks as they log in. Don't want to penalize those of us that were here on time. So, welcome to our February Connections meeting. We're going to talk about corporate recycling and sustainability programs. I'm Chris Blum, the Business Development Manager for the Nebraska Safety Council. So most of you all know me, or at least know the name. So I won't ask if you like me or not. We'll just assume that you do. We want to thank our sponsors who support the Safety Council throughout the year. Several of these are current members and have supported us throughout the year in the past few years. If you don't see your company's name up there, happy to talk with you and see how we can remedy that. But we appreciate the sponsors that we have to help us provide these programs. We do have a special sponsorship with the Healthier Workforce Center of the Midwest. They provide a lot of resources and tools for the Safety Council that we can pass along to our members. So you can Google their website and find resources. And several times throughout the year, we share their resources with our members in our newsletters, and make you all aware of this opportunity to keep your employees safe and healthy. We have some upcoming meetings, an additional Connections meeting in March, Diffusing the Ticking Time Bomb with Rick Volker from the Safety Council. We're going to be at UBT on March 3rd, so we will be back in person. We'll have a box lunch, knock on wood. We're still able to do that. On April 7th, Boyd Ober with Leadership Resources is going to be presenting to us. We're working on a location, and we're actually working on a topic, but we're going to be working probably through a leadership, management, execution type topic for those of us that need help with leadership and controlling the folks that work with us and for us. Our conference is April 21st. At the Graduate Hotel here in Lincoln. There's been several emails coming out to give you a kind of a tickler of what we have coming up. We've got real excited to have Jordan Larson from USA Volleyball, former Husker national champion, being our keynote speaker over lunch. And we've got some really nice speakers and topics, as you can see there. There's 3 hours of CEU credits and PDC credits for those of you that are needing those continuing education for moving forward. Also want to recommend that you apply for our Safety Council Awards on the website. There's been some information about that, and we actually had a workshop a couple times to show you how to fill those out. We have our Safety Council Award. This is a members only award, recognizes our businesses and members for quality safety programs. It's free to apply. All of our awards will be presented at the conference during the luncheon. We have a Worker 360 award. This is sponsored by the Safety Council, the Nebraska State Chamber, the NIOSH Center of Excellence, and that's part of the Healthier Workforce Center of the Midwest. It's available to any organization, Nebraska, Iowa, Missouri, or Kansas. So if you have other companies you think would be interested in applying, feel free to share this information with them. And again, there's the website. If you have questions on how to fill this out, shoot me an email or drop me a note in the chat, and I'll get you in touch with the right person that can help you fill that out. And then we have our Legacy Awards. This is for our members that can recognize individuals that champion safety and wellness in their organization, or that have made significant changes to their health or safety behaviors. For instance, lost a significant amount of weight, they've quit smoking, they've changed the safety culture in your organization, or may have saved a life through first aid CPR. Again, go on the website, you can fill that application out. And again, our conference and trade show is April 21st. Registration is available, as are tables of 8 for the luncheon. Sponsorships are also available. And so we look forward to seeing you at the conference. I would get into our speaker today. I'll read her bio. But we're pleased to have Danielle Easdale with us from the Nebraska Recycling Council. She's the board president. Danielle moved to Nebraska in 2015 from the United Kingdom. She's originally from Australia, and she brings 2 decades of waste resource management experience working within the energy waste, environmental management, and facilities management fields for both large public and private sector organizations. Danielle is currently the Director of Sales and Marketing at First Star Fiber, where she is known for critical thinking and strategic analysis. Danielle is passionate about providing economic and environmentally sustainable waste resource management services and sharing her in-depth knowledge of the recycling industry with communities, businesses, and the public. Danielle has served on the Nebraska Recycling Council Board of Directors and previously WasteCap for 7 years in various roles, including President, Vice President, and Treasurer. So Danielle, I will turn it over to you. Thanks for being here, and we look forward to your presentation. And you can have questions as you go along, but the floor is now yours.
Thank you so much for having me here. I will just share my screen here. Okay. All right. So thank you very much for having me. I'm pleased to be here with you today. That was a really nice introduction. Thanks very much there, Chris. A little bit about me. Obviously, I'm passionate about sustainability. I'm a real animal and nature lover. Growing up in Australia, I spent a lot of time on the beaches and developed a passion for the environment there. In my other life, I'm an artist. I moonlight as an artist. And probably one of the best things about my job is getting to work with people like yourselves, talk to people, working with different businesses and organizations. This photo here was probably one of the best days of my life when I got to work with Omaha Zoo and they snuck me in to see the penguins. So that was a total great day for me there. So but yeah, getting to work with businesses of all types is really what makes me get out of bed every morning. So today I get to wear 2 hats speaking with you. Obviously, I am the board president of the Nebraska Recycling Council. Unfortunately, the lady that was going to be speaking with you was not available, so they wrote me in. So the Nebraska Recycling Council, a lot of you may be aware of who we are, but just in case you're not, we're a statewide member-based 501c3, and our mission is to maximize the economic and environmental benefits of resource recovery in Nebraska. And what that really means is we have a vision of a future where all materials are reserved for their highest and best use, and landfill disposal is the last resort. In my with my other hat on, I work for First Star Fiber, and that is the largest mechanical recovery facility in Nebraska. So that is where a lot of the recycling from all over the state and adjoining states will come to be sorted out and separated and sold on to end markets to make new products. So when you go to a recycling drop-off or get the recycling picked up by a waste hauler, there's a good chance that it's coming to us to be processed. And we employ 120 people. Our facilities are in Omaha and Lincoln, and we process about 100,000 tons of recycling every year. And one of the things I really love about working for First Star is, as an organization, they really value sensible and sustainable waste management, and they look at waste actually as resources rather than trash. And they're resources that are worthy of recovery. So I always like to start off with one of those kind of hard-hitting facts, and this one always sticks out to me, that every hour Americans use approximately 2.5 million plastic bottles. I mean, that's absolutely mind-boggling when you think about it. And most of these are thrown away and not recycled. So getting down to the crux of why we're here to talk today, what is corporate sustainability? I mean, every business is different, and I guess corporate sustainability means something a little different to every business in its context. But at the crux of it, what it really means is meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability for future generations to meet theirs. What that boils down to is 3 pillars. So we have environmental, reducing the impact that our businesses have on the environment; the social aspect, having the support of our employees, our stakeholders, and the community; and then economic, we need to manage those resources in a responsible way. And when you boil those all together, with all 3 of them working together, then you have sustainability. The first, and really that can be summarized with the whole people, profit, planet. So when we're looking at each of those individual pillars, we can start with the first one, and probably arguably the most important one of those is our environment. When we're talking corporate sustainability and recycling, obviously we're looking to reduce our company's impact on the environment. And from a corporate perspective, commercial and industrial waste account for over 50% of the waste in Nebraskan landfills. We all know that landfills have a significant impact, both environmentally and socially. They're the 3rd largest source of human-related methane gas emissions in the United States, according to the EPA. And that is a huge impact with carbon emissions and climate change. Recycling itself, it has so many benefits. I mean, it conserves natural resources. It means that we don't have to go out and collect more raw materials. It prevents pollution. It saves energy, reduces landfill, and it also provides a domestic source of materials. And as we know in the current climate, with the way things have been over recent years, this is increasingly important. The second pillar, and probably one that's forgotten about a little bit when it comes to recycling, is just how much of an impact that has on the people that we deal with on a daily basis, particularly in the current market where recruitment is so difficult and people are really struggling to get workforce. Don't overlook the benefit of having a good corporate sustainability plan and program in place. A recent study, The Decade of Disruption, Future of the Sustainable Workplace in the Age of COVID-19 and Climate Change, found that 2/3 of survey respondents are more likely to work for a company that has strong environmental policies. And 83% of people reported that their workplaces were not doing enough to address climate change. As well as your employees, it's becoming stakeholder and consumer expectation. People expect it. You know, they are expecting us to take responsibility for the impact that we are making. And they're starting to really base their decisions on this. Consumers, sustainability is rated as an important purchase criteria for 61% of consumers, and 50% of consumers rank sustainability as a top 5 value driver. I mean, that is huge for us. And the Deloitte Global Climate Check shows that environmental sustainability initiatives are primarily being driven by stakeholder pressure. So never underestimate the importance of a good corporate sustainability program with the people that you're dealing with on a daily basis. And the final one, profit. the US Chamber Foundation did a study, and they said waste production is a serious problem for all American businesses and industries. By not accurately estimating, measuring, or managing their waste streams, American companies are throwing away significant opportunities for profit and improved efficiencies. But beyond what it does for our own companies, recycling has a huge economic impact on the state of Nebraska. It creates and supports over 2,000 jobs, $127 million in wages, and it generates 41 million, well, almost 42 million revenue in taxes, with a total economic of $495 million. And that's a study that's done regularly by the Institute of Scrap Recyclers. It's really interesting to see the impact that recycling just within our state has on the economy. So the big question I always get asked, and you'll have to bear with me because this slide has some really obnoxious music to it, so I'm going to quickly turn the volume off here on that. But everyone wants to know what actually happens to their recycling once it's picked up. So here's a quick video of what happens to the recycling when it leaves the curb or leaves your business and it comes to us here at First Star. So a lot of the time, this is what recycling looks like when it comes to us at First Star. It's a big hot mess all mixed in together. Really kind of does resemble trash. But to be of value, all these materials need to be sorted into individual product types. And this is where our process begins. The material is loaded up onto a conveyor belt. Travels up to a sort line where we have people that are manually looking for contaminants, sorting out things like the hefty energy bag, shopping sacks, and anything that shouldn't be in there, like glass, which can cause a safety hazard for our staff. On average, staff manually remove about 4 tons of plastic film contaminants a day. Materials then go across what's called a star screen. This separates the fiber from the containers. So this top star screen, the cardboard bounces along the top and the paper falls through to a second screen, while any containers fall through to the bottom. Another manual sort removes the items that may have snuck through that aren't supposed to be in that line. Then it goes through a ballistic screen to sort out the remaining papers. That's basically separating anything that's 2D versus 3D. That's why we always say collapse your boxes, but don't squash your cans. All those different sorted grades are then baled up and stored and then sold on to end markets to make new products. All the containers that are left, so this is like your plastics, your tin and aluminum, travel through to another process in the building here, and they go through a series of optical sorters. And these optical sorters are identifying the plastic resins down to the molecular level. And when it recognizes the particular type of plastic it's targeting, it shoots a jet of air, and that bounces off the conveyor belt into a separate bunker, separating it from the other material. So you'll see a milk jug here. It's going to kind of bounce up off the screen in a minute where the air hits it and it bounces over. We then have manual sorters again that are separating any of the 3 through 7 plastics from the number 2 natural, which is like your milk jugs. The remaining materials go through looking again for contamination, capturing any materials that the machines didn't quite catch. And then they'll go under an overhead magnet, which is pulling out any of the steel tin cans, so your soup cans and things like that. We have a manual sort for number 2 color plastics, which is like laundry jugs, things like that. Then an eddy current separator separates the aluminum can. So that basically works like two magnets with reverse polarities. When you put them together, it springs apart. That's how that machine works. And when the aluminum cans go through it, it springs away. Any of the residual materials will get run back through a second time to make sure that we've got everything. And on average, we have about 7 to 10% contamination. Finally, the separated materials are all sent off to be baled. And then they're stored up until we have a complete semi-load, and then they're sold to end markets to make new products. Finally, these materials are usually sent by road or rail to the end markets to be turned into those products. So what happens, what should you be doing if you want to either implement a new program, a new recycling program within your organization, or if you have a program that you may want to improve upon or make more efficient? The first thing you really need to do is a waste audit. You need to identify and measure what your wasted resources are. I always like to say, we can't manage what we can't measure. So the first step is review your current waste management program, what you're doing, perform that waste audit, and look at what resources you have within your waste stream that you could be recovering and diverting. Identify areas where waste could be reduced at source. Do you have any inefficient processes that you could change? And think outside the box. Are there any waste like hard to recycle plastics or compost that you could be diverting? First Star Fiber is currently working with a lot of companies to look at those hard to recycle plastics. What are those plastics that couldn't be recycled before that perhaps now we have solutions for? And always tap into resources like the Nebraska Recycling Council or First Star Fiber for help. They're your experts. They're there to help you. Nebraska Recycling Council and First Star Fiber both offer audit services if you would like somebody to help you with those. And make sure once you've done that audit that you're performing regular reviews to measure your success and identify any problem areas that you may have. When you're doing your audit as well, one of the things that you can really look at is what is the best way that you could be collecting stuff for your businesses. Some businesses that are smaller, they may look to go towards a commingled system like the machinery that you just sorted. That's where all recyclables are collected within a single bin, and it requires sorting at our facility. Or maybe you're that little bit bigger and you could look at doing a dual stream system, and that's where you're sorting your paper and cardboard, so anything that's fiber, from anything anything else like your containers, your plastics, any metals, things like that. Or finally, you can look at source separated. And source separated is typically the most valuable for businesses that have large quantities. And quite often you'll find that there's rebates that can be applied to those. So recycling can actually be revenue generating in some circumstances. And the most important thing when you're implementing a corporate sustainability plan is keeping it simple. Make sure that your recycling collection points are at areas that are close to where the waste is generated. If people have to travel with those recyclables, chances are they're just going to throw it in the trash. Make sure your recycling containers are really easy to recognize and stand out. And make sure they're well signed and consistent. One of the things that we get feedback constantly on is that people find it confusing. So the Recycle Across America signs are always really, really good. Or the Recycling Partnership also has signage, which is very clear, very consistent, and very easy for people to understand. And probably one of the biggest things with corporate sustainability programs is communicate, communicate, communicate. Make sure you're keeping your employees and your stakeholders updated and educated on what can and can't go in those bins. Monitor those bins, make sure that you're not getting any contamination or wish cycling. And if you don't know what wish cycling is, that's probably one of the biggest causes of contamination in the recycling system, is when people have an item and they're not sure whether it can be recycled or not. So they think, oh, I don't know, I'll put it in the bin, and they can figure out whether they can do something with it or not. And that actually can cause problems for us at the recycling facility, because it contaminates the good recycling. It's costly for us because we have to pay extra staffing to pull it out and to keep it out of the other recyclables. And sometimes in the cases of things like glass, it can break up and cause problems with our machinery, or tangle in our machinery if it's film plastic or something like that. Another great thing you can do to really get employee engagement is form a company green team. They can really be helpful as well for getting that messaging out and getting the enthusiasm behind the program. And always encourage employee feedback and waste reduction ideas. It's amazing how many times in an organization, if you're speaking to the people that are actually working with the materials, how often they will have really great ideas of ways that those materials could be reduced or even changed to a different material, which is actually easier to handle. And of course, the most important thing is celebrating the successes, telling people how you're doing with your program, getting people's buy-in by seeing the progress that you're making. Another really important bit is making it corporate culture, really ingraining recycling into your corporate culture by replacing hard to recycle products with those that are easier to recycle. So that could be anything from if you have styrofoam coffee cups in a conference suite, replacing those to either reusable ones or a plastic that is a resin that's easy to recycle. Buying recycled products where possible, that is hugely important. And a lot of people forget about that part of it, that in order for recycling to work, there needs to be demand for those recycled products. So the more that you can buy recycled, the stronger the whole recycling ecosystem is. Encourage that culture of waste reduction and avoiding greenwashing. Greenwashing is when an organization is making claims about the environmental benefits of something that may not necessarily be the case. So it comes into play a lot in marketing, where something is advertised as a green product that may not necessarily be as green as we would like to think it is. So avoid that within your own organization by making sure you're working with reputable recycling partners, making sure you know where your waste is going, and making sure that you can back your claims up with how successful your programs are. So that's basically the crux of the whole thing. So I thought I would open it up to any questions. I know everybody's business is a little bit different, so I'd like to really be able to address any questions that may that you may have on a level that's more relevant for your businesses.
Well, Amy or Kellen, I know you all both are very involved with your organizations and with the Safety Council. Do you have questions for Danielle? If you don't, can you make one up? Make two up? Well, Danielle, that was very, watching that video was very impressive. I know we've got one member of ours, Green Quest Recycling, that I think is in a similar similar business as yours, similar operations. So, yeah, wow, crazy.
Yeah.
Makes me rethink too, because I'm one of those guys that, well, I'll just throw it in the bin and they'll figure it out. I'll rethink that strategy of mine. And now I know why my wife yells at me when I do that.
Yeah, it's a very common thing to do, and before I was in the industry, I was guilty of it myself. You know, no one wants to throw something away that they don't have. Yeah, it's better if you know, and if you don't know, then pick up the phone, call somebody like the Nebraska Recycling Council or First Star, and we'll let you know if it can or it can't. The Nebraska Recycling Council has a really good recycling guide as well. If you have any of those really random things that you're not sure what to do with, that will direct you to the right place to dispose of it too. So pop onto their website. It's really useful.
There is a couple questions in the chat. So Kellen, great recycling center video. I've always wondered how those centers work. More often than not, there are a lot of obvious recyclables thrown away in trash bins that are next to the recycle bins. Do you have any suggestions to help convince people to take the extra step, literally, to recycle their items? So any tips for this behavior modification?
Yeah, so that's a real hard one. And, you know, we're never going to win them all. But that's a changing hearts and minds, as I like to call it. And really, all we can do with that is keep communicating. Communicating the successes really help. If you have a green team in your organization, contact myself or Kelly at GreenQuest, depending on where your recycling is going. Organize a tour. Get your green team to come and see what happens with stuff at First Star, because then they can talk to your staff about, oh man, I didn't realize that if I squash my cans, they turn into a hockey puck and they can end up with the paper. You know, just kind of getting that education out constantly. It's a process, but the more you can educate, the more likely people are going to think twice before they throw it in the bin. And good signage with pictures as well as the words, and so that it's really recognizable. Those are the biggest weapons that we have in our arsenal for that. So.
Amy also thought the video was very interesting. So, let's see, offices across the hall from health departments, environmental educators. Learned so much about the things we take for granted regarding our infrastructure the past few years. Thank you for all that you do. So,
thank you.
Yeah, very, again, very, very eye-opening. So one question I have is, you know, one of the kind of the pushbacks that I think people have is, well, it's going to cost me money to recycle, because I got to pay for the trash and you know, the trash company, and then I got to pay for a recycling company. How would you combat, you know, that pushback, or how would you share with a business owner that, hey, to recycle, you can increase your bottom line?
Yeah, so there's a couple of different points with that one. So bear with me. I think for the longest of time, people were used to recycling paying for itself. When the markets were at a rate where the commodities were covering those costs of recycling. And then a few years ago, when the China sword happened and recycling markets plummeted, all of a sudden people had to start paying for recycling, and they weren't used to it. But I guess the main point with that was recycling was never free. The cost of it was just hidden. You know, First Star has 120 staff that we have to, you know, that are here every day that we're paying to process this. It's a service. It's not something that, you know, that always pays for itself. being a service, you pay for your trash service, you pay for all the other services that you get. So it's definitely that mind change that this is a service that I'm paying for. This is something that I should be doing because it's the right thing to do. And you're paying for it whether it comes to us to be recycled, or you're going to pay for it whether it goes to the landfill, because if it's not coming to us, then you're paying for extra trash. So one way or another, you're paying for it. Of course, in terms of corporate recycling, depending on your volumes, depending on what you generate, sometimes those recyclables actually have a value. And we work with a lot of companies that have larger volumes of particular grades of material or particular types of material. And so we will actually rebate for those materials. So you may pay an initial transport rate fee or what have you to get it to us, or get it to an end mill if you're using our brokerage services. But then we actually will rebate you and pay you back for those materials. So dependent on the type of business that you have and the type of materials, I definitely recommend reaching out to myself or one of your other recyclers to see whether that is something that we could help you out with. So, and we recycle a lot more than just the materials that you saw on that video. They were primarily the things we think of as typically recyclable, your tin cans, your aluminum, plastic bottles, things like that. When it comes to corporate recycling, there is a whole wide range of things that we can recycle. So if you have a warehouse that is using a lot of LDPE shrink wrap, we can recycle that. If you have a large volume of corrugated cardboard, we can recycle that. That's one of the reasons that I really recommend bringing someone like myself or someone from the NRC, and when you're doing that waste audit, because they may be able to look at materials and say, yeah, we can do something with that. We're at First Star, we're actually working on a new program at the moment. We're installing a plastic pre-processing facility, which is actually going to take a lot of those plastics that couldn't be recycled before, and running them through a process which basically shreds them all up, turns them into these blends all the different resins together and turns them into feedstock cubes, which we're actually now going to be making plastic lumber decking in our Lincoln facility. So that's a whole nother range of more plastics that we're going to be keeping out of the landfill that may have a benefit for your business.
Yeah, very interesting. So do you have a partnership with the trash hauling companies that pick up recycling, or how does that work?
Yeah, so they work as our clients. Basically, they will bring the recycling to us. If you're a smaller organization that just has several dumpsters or what have you, you'll usually contract your recycling services through a waste hauler. If you're a larger company that has compactors or balers or things like that, then quite often you can contact us and we can actually organize the transportation for you.
Nice.
We'll always work with companies to try and get you the most revenue out of a particular material that we can. So if you generate a volume of material that we can send straight to an end market instead of having to come to First Star first, we will actually broker those services for you so that we can make sure that you're getting the most money that you can for that material, rather than having to pay the transport to us and then back out again. So.
Nice. Very, very interesting. I don't see any other questions in the chat. Kel and Amy, don't be shy. You can unmute yourself and ask a question, or you can just drop it in the chat again. If Danielle, if you want to stop sharing your screen, I'll pop mine back up and share the information to wrap this up. So let's see. All right, so hopefully you're seeing the continuing education slide. If you are, just give me a thumbs up or shoot a note in the chat saying, yep, I see it. So we've got a continuing education. If you're needing the SHRM certification from the HR side, the PDC is listed there. And if you need the CEUs from the safety side, that is also listed here. If you need to contact the Safety Council for anything, Karen Ream is our wellness manager, and you can reach her at that email and phone number. And as a Safety Council member, you receive 2 hours of free wellness strategy consultation every year. On the safety side, if you need questions for trainings or anything like that, please reach out to Sid Horkin. Sid is our safety coordinator. There's her email and phone number. And then if you've got general questions, you can reach out to me. But we thank you for your membership as with the Nebraska Safety Council. And we look forward to seeing you next month at our Connections meeting. Remember, this is a free membership benefit, so you can attend and have others in on your team attend. We plan on being in person at one of the UBT locations. So look for that information as we get a little closer to the March date. So that should be everything that we have. And again, thanks for being a member. Thanks for your time today. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we will see you soon.